Welcome to the Western North London podcast, where we sit down each and every week to answer your big Arsenal questions. I'm Caleb.
And I'm Tim.
It's firmly Euro season.
It is.
And it's actually nice to have something to watch, something to cling to while nothing else happens in the soccer world. I guess Copa America, if you're into that.
Yeah, no, and the Copa games have been really good too. I would highly recommend throwing a couple of those on. It's just there's a lot of soccer, and you're at that period of the tournament where it feels like it's almost overwhelming. But we're already like through the group stage, and pretty soon the games are going to slow up, and then you're going to start being like, wait, where did all the games go? So enjoy it while you can.
Yeah, but then the real fun begins.
Well, then the actual real players start playing.
Yeah, then it starts ramping up to the next season here. So,
oh, that's true. Yeah, August is closer than you think.
It is. Plus, there's always MLS and Gold Cup, and all the things are happening.
Yeah. I mean, there's tons of soccer. If you really want to find it, there's tons of soccer. Plus biking, and I recently just watched a bunch of cricket, and I think I finally get it.
I'm have to explain it to me.
Yeah, at some point. I know I've mentioned it before, but this morning before the Euro game, there was a cricket final going on that I was watching.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, New Zealand versus India.
Oh,
I know.
I don't know. I'm assuming India's good.
Yeah.
I'm assuming New Zealand's decent. I don't know.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, India has right now currently one of the best players in the world on their team. So yeah.
Okay. So you said you watched a documentary on this, right?
Yeah, exactly. I started watching a documentary, which is how I started to get the rules down. But actually, spending about 2 hours this morning watching the game, because I woke up at 9 expecting there to be a game, forgetting that there's only the 12 o'clock games on.
I think there is 9 o'clock tomorrow.
There is. Well, there's the most important game of the Euros up till now tomorrow, which is, Sweden versus Poland.
Yep. That's the biggest matchup of that group.
And that's a 9 o'clock game. So, yeah.
I'm looking forward to France-Portugal at noon, which should be pretty good.
That group is just such a good group. I'm so glad that somehow magically it came together.
I really look forward to the next round, though. That's when it starts getting serious and you get the heavy hitters coming out against each other. So that'll be fun to see what the matchups are.
Yeah, and it's all confusing because third place teams all basically all of them but 2 qualify. So it's it's almost harder not to qualify for the next round than it is to qualify. So.
R.I.P. Scotland.
Yeah, sorry, Scotland.
But thank you for. Tierney's legs say thank you.
Yes,
exactly. He really could use a break. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here because we got a lot more to talk about with the Euros. But let us talk about our drinks because I got something good this week. I don't know what you got, but
yeah, I'm liking mine. But what do you got? What's your?
I actually don't know if I like it. It just looked good. It caught my eye. It was nice and shiny.
Oh, that happens.
But it's from Bale Breaker, which really sold me.
Oh, yeah.
It's a shiny Bale Breaker. I don't know if you can see that here.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Homegrown, release number 7, West Coast IPA, coming in at 7.2%.
Ooh, yeah, that's a nice percentage. I like a West Coast IPA.
Yeah, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say I'm going to like this, but I haven't been loving hazies lately, so I'm just giving it the benefit of the doubt.
Well, West Coast is different than a hazy. Is that one labeled as a hazy?
It is not, but just looking at the way they describe it with hoppy tropical grapefruit peach with pine resin notes, the fruitiness made me maybe this is more on the lighter hazy side, and the IBUs are pretty light at 45, so I'm going to taste it because I'm just giving Bale Breaker the benefit of the doubt so far. Yeah, not super hoppy, but as far as like a fruity IPA goes, this one's pretty refreshing. So at 7.2, it's not too bad.
No, and it's perfect for a day like today, right? Where you're melting.
Yes. Thank God this room is in the basement. I would died long ago.
My place is definitely not in the basement, and I'm sweating as we speak, especially because I have to have the lights on in certain ways so you can see my face. And yeah,
Yeah, I feel
so
you.
my apologies for anyone watching this on HD, because you're going to be seeing
Just
rivulets of
tiny,
sweat.
tiny droplets in high definition.
Well, because it's so hot, I went with, of course, my favorite thing, a Pilsner. This is a Aslan Brewing, which is in Bellingham Brewery. You can definitely get theirs here. And this is their, what is it, 7th-year anniversary. And they're just calling it, what do they call it? Totality Pilsner. And then they have no other description to it. So I like a good Pilsner.
Nice. Nice simple can.
Yeah. No, that's a great Pilsner. It was a very, yeah, that's exactly what I want. It's a little bit more bitter than like a good like Euro Pilsner, not like Carlsberg, but like a Pilsner or Kel or something like that. There's a little bit more of that. I don't want to say hoppiness, but something a little bit more bitter in it. But yeah, I like it.
More akin to a pale than a pilsner.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think that's just the Americanness coming out in it,
Yeah.
that they have to do that. And Bellingham is well known for its pilsners. The what is it? Chucking Up Brewing up here. It basically made the United States best pilsner and best Kolsch. So it comes in the tradition.
Nice. 2 good beers this week. I like it. What do we have for Tim's bit?
Oh, Tim's bit. Well, I was thinking, in honor of the Euros, with our 4 players that are in the Euros, really only 3 of them are playing at this point. Which one of their national dishes would you rather eat for the rest of your life? Would it be Saka and the English fare, Xhaka and the Swiss food, Tierney and the Scottish, or Leno and the German food?
Oof, man. I don't know a lot about Swiss Swiss food. I'm trying to think if there's a Swiss dish I can think of.
The one that comes to mind, I think, for a lot of people is fondue. Fondue is a Swiss dish.
Okay. I
Lots of cheeses.
I'm into melted cheese and
Yeah.
and cooking things in pots of boiling oils and wine. I could get into that, but so this is for the rest of my life. This is my
Yeah, exactly. It's
oh
not a
boy.
one-time thing. It is for the rest of your life. You have to just get transferred. It would be easier if there's like an Italian or Spanish. I
Oh
think
yeah.
these 4 are more interesting.
Yeah, let's see. So English food. Lots of I think of lots of fried foods.
Yeah, I mean, you've got your fish and chips, but you also have your bangers and mash and a full English breakfast. But yeah, lots of fried food. English food doesn't necessarily come across to me as the most appetizing, but it might be
No.
the most not. No, it's not the most nutritious.
I don't
Sorry, I'm trying to find something positive
it's
about
not
it.
coming to me either. Scottish food, I can only think of a couple things and they are not very good.
Yeah, I think also like it's English food with haggis, which
Yeah.
I don't think is a.
And then German food. I've never been at like my some of my family is German, so I've had some homemade German food, and it's not my favorite thing. Like there's some stuff I like there's like um, sausages and things that I can get behind, but I don't really go for some of the more like the sauerkraut and stuff like that. That flavor doesn't do it for me.
I can see that. So you're sticking with the Swiss then?
I think I'm gonna go fondue. Fondue wins for the rest of
Fondue.
my life. I feel like I could do a lot of different things with that. Melted
Yeah.
cheese and just I could pretty much cook anything in that. It's just a
Do you
method, pretty much.
do you own a fondue pot?
I believe I do. I don't know if we've
Have you
ever cracked
used
it
it?
out, but I've
Is
been.
it still in its plastic?
It probably is. There was that. I'm trying to think of the name of it. That restaurant in Seattle,
The melting pot.
Melting Pot. Yeah, I've been there a couple times. So that's pretty good. I mean, you can pretty much do anything that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think fondue. Although I will put a shout out to German food, which I was when I went there a couple years back, and I'm vegetarian, so I was expecting not to be able to eat anything at all
Mm-hmm.
ever there. But the German food actually was really good. I fell in love with Spätzle, which is kind of like this like potato-y thing that's deep fried. That's really good. And then something called Flammschicke. Sorry, my German is horrible. I apologize. And it's basically like almost like pizza. It's like a flat bread that they put in an oven that has like vegetables and stuff on it, and like it doesn't have like a tomato base usually, but it does have like all sorts of roasted things on it. Yeah, it was good. I was surprised. So
Okay. Well, if I've offended anybody by my what I've eliminated here, if there's a good dish that I don't know about, you just let us know because I want to
yeah,
hear about it. I want to try some stuff that I haven't tried before.
yeah, and and there are good things about English food. It's just kind of one note, I want to say.
Yeah, I feel like I would get over it real quick.
Exactly.
Uh,
And I've never had haggis, and I don't think I ever will.
No, that just does not seem appetizing.
Anyways,
Yeah, now you got me thinking about random food, but I'm into it. Glad I ate first though, because
yeah,
I might have been down for anything.
give me the haggis.
All right. Well, without Arsenal playing, we've got very few players in the Euros to keep an eye on at the moment. Um, we could talk a little bit about how they've been doing or our overall Euro impressions. Um, or we could just skip to some questions I came up with. However you want to
Yeah.
approach this.
Well, I did want to kind of highlight Tierney. I think Tierney had a great Euros on a very average Scotland team. I think most of us did watch the England Scotland game,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he had Kane in his pocket, which was lovely to see. Not that Kane's having a great Euros to begin with, but he really looked good in that game. He's looked good in today's game, even though they lost. It wasn't his fault that Scotland lost. So I thought that was promising. Xhaka, I can I've watched bits and pieces of the Swiss games. I think I've watched one full Swiss game, and I can all I can say is it's just unremarkable. I don't remember him doing anything amazing or bad. I think it's just kind of very very Xhaka like performances actually.
Absolutely. What little I've seen of him playing, he's doing his thing. Just mucking stuff up in the midfield um, for the opposing team, and just facilitating passes, but nothing amazing. I don't even think it's the best I've seen him play for the Swiss team. Really, it's just kind of been there. Um,
No, I've seen him be like. I remember when I watched the Swiss Germany. I forget if it was a qualifier or just a friendly when Leno was in goal because I thought it was a fun little game or matchup. And I remember seeing Xhaka be very much more offensive minded. I remember mentioning in the pod that like I'd love to see that type of play go to the play to Arsenal. But yeah, I've definitely not seen that in this Euros from Xhaka.
yeah, he looks like he'll do great in Italy.
Yeah. And then Leno, I mean, there's not much to talk about Leno. I don't think he's going to get a start unless something calamitous happens
Yeah,
for Neuer.
yeah.
Uh, so I think the only other one to talk about is Xhaka, and Xhaka has had only one game, but what a game, right? Today's
Oh,
game.
for Saka, you mean?
Yeah, not Xhaka, Saka.
Yeah, no, the one time he gets to start and is I think he was man of the match, even though he didn't score. He just caught everybody's eye. I think that his ability to move the ball was something that England squad has really struggled to find. I mean, like uh, everybody was clamoring for Sancho and Grealish to be kind of those sorts of players, and Saka gets one shot and then really makes a case for being a starter. I think it's going to be hard hard decision for Southgate to make, I think, based on how he played today.
Yeah, and this is the kind of national team performance I think we've all, as Arsenal fans, been waiting for him to get. We knew it was inevitable. We knew he had that talent, and it's why I'm so glad we do have him on a multi-year deal now, because his stock. I mean, I haven't looked at the transfer market for him yet, but like I imagine his stock just shot up like from today. That he's gonna definitely be a much more valuable player. And and he's still young. That's the thing too. He's still developing, and he's already kind of fitting into that team. The first goal was a great Grealish cross, but it was really Saka's work that really made that goal, and he was making those runs all the time he was on the pitch. So yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, he's been steadily climbing in value. As of March of this year, he was at the 66 million mark, and currently he sits at 71.5 according to Transfermarkt. So
yeah, I think if he continues to have these performances in this tournament, and if England make it pretty far in the tournament, I think that's going to definitely go up. Not that I'd want to sell him at all.
No,
I don't think there's a price. He's one of those players that's kind of priceless right now. He's untouchable in my mind as far as what we'd sell him for and what we'd get.
it's such an Arsenal, like the Arsenal fan in me. It like I can't quiet that voice in my head that says if he doesn't get injured, because it's such an Arsenal thing.
Knock on your desk right now. That was
but it's that Arsenal part of my brain that just says, something. It can't be that good. There's got to be something that's wrong.
No, I mean, I tend to have that pessimism, but like I really am just hopeful for him, and it's like you do see it in these performances that anytime he goes to a new stage, he just steps up to that stage, and that's definitely a sign of a player that has promise and has a future ahead of them.
Yeah. So somebody on Twitter was pointing out today that the last time there was such a amazing talent with Arsenal, it was they pulled out the comparison to Fabregas, and the other part of my stupid Arsenal brain, my pessimistic brain, was like, so he's going to Chelsea soon.
No, I mean the lucky thing is he is an Arsenal youth player. He has had a much stronger connection than Fabregas had. So, and as I said, we had him. I forget how long we locked him in. Was it a 3-year deal that we just did?
That's a good question.
And the years are very squishy now. So I'm trying to remember if that was happening pre-pandemic, post-pandemic.
I'm trying to find his. That happened in the middle of the pandemic, I think.
Yeah, I
believe.
Either way, I believe we have some years on him, and when he inevitably doesn't, we'll hear about it from.
Yeah, I can't. He's got a contract until 2024.
Yeah, so we've got some years on him. 3 more years. That's what I thought. So yeah, it's nice. My if you want to know, my fear is that we waste his talent. That we don't build a team around him that can showcase and get him the trophies that he wants, and the Champions League exposure that he wants. And after those 3 years are up, he goes somewhere else. That is my fear, not out of disloyalty, but just out of lack of ambition from Arsenal.
Yeah, I feel like Arteta was talking about a 3-year project last offseason. So now it's a 2-year project, but I kind of feel like he's probably going, starting now. 3 years starting now.
Starting now.
No, we're throwing that one away. So starting now. And then 6 months down the road, it'll be starting now.
Yeah. Do you have anything else on the Euros you wanted to bring up and talk?
Not at the moment. I'm really looking forward to the round of 16. So we get to see the big boys go up against each other.
Yeah, and all of them inevitably play Sweden and get their hopes destroyed.
You don't sound as confident about Sweden. Yeah, or you're saying that everybody else should be afraid. I got you.
Yeah, everyone should be absolutely afraid.
Okay.
Sweden's where your dreams get crushed.
Okay. It's not Sweden's dreams. It's everyone else's dreams.
No, it's everyone else's. Easy.
Dream killers.
Exactly.
I like it. I like the confidence. It's do they know who they're playing? I guess they have to finish tomorrow to.
Yeah, they have to finish tomorrow because there is a chance that Sweden wins the group, which would be just amazing, and it'd be great. Yeah, if and because I mean, if Sweden wins, they win the group outright. If they draw, I think they still have a chance of winning the group outright, depending on other results.
Interesting. And it's an early game. Well,
Yeah, it's the
early
9 o'clock.
being 9. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. I'll keep an eye on that one.
earlier. Yeah, but that's all my excitement. Although I woke up this morning thinking it was the early game today because I just had my calendar mixed up, and
Mm.
so I was super excited all day yesterday. So it's kind of just been dragging on for 2 days now. So,
So you're ready. You're overly ready. All
yeah.
right. Well, that's exciting for tomorrow. For now, let's move on past the Euros for a moment. Um, we have not talked a whole lot about the transfer rumors swirling around, because they are just that. But I thought there were some interesting topics to talk about, some interesting rumors just to toy with what if scenarios. So I've got a few questions here, and I'm just gonna go through these and start with one rumor that has not died yet. It doesn't seem to be going away, and that's that Aston Villa keeps coming with supposed bids for Emil Smith Rowe, with the second one supposedly coming in the 25 million range. Um, but my question to you is: should we be considering a bid of any amount for Emil Smith Rowe if it means that we could put that money towards rebuilding?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we spoke about it kind of towards the end of the year when we were talking about who should say who should go. There are very few players on Arsenal that I think are completely untouchable. I think Saka is one of them, as I
Mm.
just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of there's a if the price is right, I don't think 25 million in my mind is exactly right for him. But if the price is right, I'd definitely take it. And it also just kind of depends on where Arteta sees us in this 3 year cycle that we were joking about. Because if we're towards the mid to late part of that, I think Smith Rowe kind of needs to be one of those players that is producing, is not a developing talent anymore. He is a actual part of the team that's contributing to winning. And but if we're still in the stage of kind of trying to build from the ground up still, I think he's a great piece that would be hard to replace no matter what the cost if we're looking at building from the ground up.
Yeah, I kind of feel like you'd be selling low on that asset because you've got a player who's essentially come out of nowhere and come up through the academy and is still developing. I mean, he really only got half a season to show us what he was capable of, and I think he's got a lot more learning to do, a lot more growing to do. And it sounds like Arsenal is offering him an extension of some sort, and that's still on the table or being worked on right now. Um, and I think giving him a pay boost is good at this point in his career to give him that confidence that he's at the right place. Um, he's currently signed until 2023. I would imagine they would add, 3 more years to that or something, to really pad his contract. But at this rate, I feel like even if you extend him and then decided, after another season, um, that you wanted to sell him, you've got then the padding of the contract to keep his value up. You've got an English player, so he's already going to have a pretty high English tax on him, and so I feel like 25 is low. I mean, given that he will probably uh, double that value with another season under his belt, I would imagine, just based on where he if Saka has grown 10 million in a half season or so. I think Emil Smith Rowe has the potential to get there as well, and especially if he continues on the trajectory that he's on, I think he will be in that the national team conversation eventually as well.
Yeah, and my only caveat is talking about a player with potential and room to learn and room to grow. I just wonder how much time Arsenal has to let players learn. I think that stage was 2 years ago, 3 years ago
Hmm.
at this point, and that we're very much approaching a point where we need results now,
Mm-hmm.
and we may not have the ability to keep someone on with the idea that 3 years down the line they're going to be a superstar, but right now they're not going to produce. I think that's a hard thing to justify.
I'm not saying he's not going to produce. I'm just saying, like, given another full season with the team, he's only going to grow in value. I think he's going to continue to grow faster than a 3 year timeline. I think he'll grow a lot just having first team minutes through a whole season, and a preseason with him in the starting lineup will do wonders for him as well. And then you've got the other unknown element of who they find to play around him. Other signings can also improve the team and improve what he can do. So I think there's lots of reason to hold on to him for at least another season, give him a full year with the first team, and see that value grow, especially considering um, he is an English player. That inflation will continue to build, and I think you could get much more than the 25 million on the table if that is the case. And I'd be really surprised if um, Arsenal were to sell him at this point. It sounds like they're more likely to extend him and keep him. So I think they're going to do the right thing. But I was just curious if it was worth it for the short term rebuild project.
For me, at 25 mil, I don't, I can't see that unless Arsenal's more strapped for cash than we know, in which case there's a lot of danger.
Mm.
But yeah, but there is definitely a price. I mean, that he can be had, because he is replaceable in my mind for a certain amount of money. There's players out there that could do what he does currently.
Mm-hmm.
It just means that we would need to get the right amount of money for him.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a ton of great um, options as far as replacement, just because we do have a homegrown quota as well that we got to maintain. So I think keeping an English player is more important than trying to get that money back in the short term, just because that we do have that other aspect of this that we have to keep in mind.
Yeah, I almost always forget about
Yeah.
that.
So next question here, and this one is another somewhat fantasy rumor here. But this came up and was immediately shot down today. I will point out that as soon as this rumor came out, his own agent came out and was quick to shoot this idea down. But the idea was that Aaron Ramsey would be willing to come back to Arsenal and reduce his pay to make things happen.
If you want my quick answer, it's going to be a no. Like I like Aaron Ramsey. I have a very soft spot for him. Uh, I think you can have this idea of the grass is always greener, that these players that leave us suddenly become heroes, and then we get them back and realize why we let them go in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the easiest way to think about it is: was I that upset when he left us? And I don't think I was, tearing up my season ticket that doesn't exist for Arsenal or anything like that when he left us. So
Yeah, I kind of think like if he was still in this team, there would be a lot of other players like Saka and Emil Smith Rowe who wouldn't have seen the game time that they've seen. So he really did need to get out of the way, and part of that was also clearing up salary. And yeah, he for as great moments as he's had equally, if not longer times sitting on the sidelines because of injury. And so I think that's easy to forget about because you want to just grasp onto the highest highs that he brought. And watching Wales play, he's a fun player to watch. He does the stuff that I like. He does. He just finds the right places to be. But where this team is at, we've got Joe Willock, who's been compared to Ramsey as far as his ability to show up in the box at the right time and in the right place. He's the type of player that we can have for free. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily give up much for Ramsey at this moment, considering the young talent that we have. That would be better off developing them and letting Ramsey find another home to finish his career at, because I just don't think that's where this team is at right now. I'd rather put time and effort into the youth and let the older players go at this point. I guess it kind of comes down to that leadership role in that Arsenal way, and trying to maintain that in the locker room, because if you lose if you lose Bellerin and Xhaka, you've lost some players that kind of embody that leadership. And so I think Ramsey would be an injection of that, and that would be one aspect I would consider at the right price. I think that would be like free transfer, a very much slashed cost of his salary, because that would be the only way it would make sense for Arsenal to do that.
Yeah, free transfer and incentive-based salary, as they call it.
Yes, come back and score 10 goals and you get paid. Otherwise, not so much.
Yeah. Which I don't think is going to be... I don't think it's good for him either, because he's getting to that point where he needs to get good paydays,
Yeah, is it more important that he retires an Arsenal player, or that he actually makes one last paycheck?
Exactly. And as I say, I have nothing against the man, but I also am always wary of going back to the well.
Mm-hmm.
It never works out as well as you think it will. Like, Mourinho at Chelsea, not that it ever works out for Mourinho anywhere, but any of these times you think about when a player comes back, 9 times out of 10 it works out poorly for everybody involved.
If you could go out and get an active former Arsenal player to come back, no strings attached as far as cost or anything, who would you go get?
That's a good question. I was looking at Shelny. I forgot where he popped up again, and I was like, "Oh, I missed having him in the defense."
Mm-hmm. Vermaelen nearly scored the other day.
Yeah, that was another one I saw. And I was like, "Oh yeah, we had him too." Gosh, I'm trying to remember who's active. That's the
it's a tough
question.
one. Szczesny popped up in this Euros. I guess Fabregas is still a player.
I would love to have.
Did Cazorla retire yet?
No, he was still active.
He might.
No.
Is he done, or is he still playing?
He's not.
I might need to look this up.
Oh, because he was in I remember seeing something about him when we played Villarreal. I think he's retired now.
Let's see. He is. Where is he playing now?
I should know these things better than I do.
It looks like he's playing.
Yeah, a lot of times when a player leaves Arsenal shore, I kind of put them off as dead to me anyways. So, gosh.
He's playing in Al Sadd. So in the... is that the Dubai?
Al Sadd, I don't know. I'm guessing it's the Dubai.
That's where
usually...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Qatar.
Oh, Qatar. Yeah. Who would you pick? Who would you current Arsenal player that you'd bring back, or former Arsenal player that you'd bring back?
I do like Cazorla a lot. I think he could still offer something, just pulling strings from deep midfield or something.
I think his legs are gone.
I'm not saying he has to run. You just plant him in the center circle and he just feeds balls.
Like a little machine.
Yeah, you just have the game just kind of going on around him, and you just ping balls off of him, and he redistributes for you.
It'd be easy to mark him out of the game, though.
Oh, you got party dancing around him. You got the party going on all around. Yeah. Who else is available? Obvious answer, Gnabry.
Oh, totally.
That's it.
That's easy.
Yeah, I would definitely bring him back. Yeah, there's not a ton of like ones that got away that I'm like, man, that would be great to get back. Emi Martinez, maybe.
maybe
If Leno
I
goes,
still
I'd take him back, I guess.
yeah, exactly. I'd say on the current squad, I still think Leno starts over him,
Mm, yeah.
or at least is competitive enough that it's not making me pine for the days.
Yeah. Who else has left us that I wish we had? I feel like there's another obvious one out there that I'm forgetting.
Yeah, Pogba.
Is there you know I think Giroud's about to go to Inter Milan. What would you do with
I
a
would take Giroud
Giroud?
back. I would totally take Giroud back. I have such a soft spot for that man.
Yeah. And there are
I
definite moments where I'm like, man, this would be a perfect Giroud sub. Like he's
yeah.
he's such a great player off the bench.
Yeah, it's just so funny. Like, and when you watch the French national team and you have all this like drama between Giroud and Benzema,
Hmm.
I just instinctively go to defend Giroud
Mm-hmm.
over Benzema, and it's yeah, I don't know. There's just something about that man. I would definitely, I might take him over Nabry, just because I love that man.
He could be a total asshole though, but I feel like he disarms you with his good looks.
Yeah, there is that. There's that stunning washboard stomach. How can you go around
he's
that?
just he's running past you because you got distracted. He's got like a
Yeah.
superpower. Yeah, I
Um,
think I think those are a couple good answers there. I know there's somebody else that I'm like gonna wish we had back, but it's not coming
yeah,
to me.
please email us, write us,
Yeah,
tell us about the glaring people that we missed.
yeah, and remember they've got to still be playing. I mean, um, there's not a ton of the greats that are still around.
What about the players that are not playing but you still think could do a job, like
Oh,
Henri? If we got Henri back,
Henri could still play, no doubt.
yeah, it's fun seeing him he's on the Belgian
Hmm.
bench. Like every once in a while he pops his head out. I'm like, oh, Henri.
I'm glad he's still go. I mean, this. I am very invested in his coaching career. I am
Yeah,
fascinated to see him figure it out because I feel like he's a very smart player. He's got the knowledge. I think there's um, it's just sort of finding the right fit for him because I feel like he does have a style that it's only going to work for some people. Just based on some of the videos I saw with him in Montreal, he's definitely got a rough exterior that you have to deal with. But I feel like he's that type of demanding coach that some people respond to, and I think he's got such a cachet of respect that he's going to find that right fit and that right group of minds that want to learn from him.
well, I mean, I think also sometimes not he doesn't have to be necessarily the head coach. I think his role that he's doing at Belgium is actually a perfect role, being the kind of attackers coach
Mm.
and teaching players how to attack and how to be more offensive minded. I think that might be a good role. You don't always have to be the head coach, and I'd love to see him back on our bench
You know,
as a attacking
yeah.
coach.
Um, Lukaku, a lot of people wrote him off. You got to wonder how much Henri's had a influence on him. Um, not to
I
say
remember
his
reading
resurgence
something
has
about it.
been entirely with the national team, but I think he's definitely probably learned a step or two from Henri.
I also say that Lukaku's performance at Man U probably says much more about Man U than it does about Lukaku.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the Pogba situation similarly.
Yep, exactly.
Um, but that's the problem with having so many star players. It's hard to nurture everybody equally and get the best out of everyone. Next question. If Arsenal land their potential target of Ben White, who's been linked, um, does Saliba have a chance of making the team? So Ben White is currently with Brighton. He is a $30 million transfer, so maybe more because of that English tax. I think there were definitely calls for a higher than valued uh, price tag. But 23 years old, has had a decent run with that team. Looks to play out of the back really well, and is a has played other positions like right back and defensive mid. So offer some flexibility. If Arsenal pull the trigger on that sort of signing, where do you think that leaves Saliba as far as coming back into this team?
I mean,
I shouldn't say coming back. I
I
mean actually making
yeah,
this team.
making the team. I don't know where we are with Saliba, and I think that's from the outside the best we can
Hmm.
say at this point. I think it's hard to know. I think all of us want him to succeed. Obviously, it's just there's so many unknowns. I think the fact that there are these rumors about center backs coming in, and multiple different ones from multiple people, does say a lot to the confidence maybe that the team has for
Hmm.
Saliba actually making
Mm-hmm.
it. It feels like there was just something lost in translation with Saliba, that somebody really valued him highly and the current management just doesn't. And I'm all the things that everyone's saying is everyone's mended fences and it's going to be a whole new try and we're going to see where it goes. But I'm definitely on the wait and see camp with that. I want to be pleasantly surprised. Maybe we'll see him in preseason and see kind of him making a role for himself. Because I mean, there definitely is spots on that center back open right now that we need someone to fill in. So
Yeah, I think it's interesting because Saliba is statistically very good, but I think especially when you're comparing him to Ben White, they're very similar. I think the difference being um, you've got almost 4 years difference. Ben White's a little bit older, and I think there's maybe little bit of reluctance in putting a 20-year-old in Saliba in the line of fire without having good coverage in front of him. Um, so I can understand Ben White coming in and maybe Saliba playing a backup role there. But you've got some other players. I mean, we've got quite a few players that can play that role. But I think there is a desire for a certain type of center back as far as that good ball control and progressive passing that we're losing with Louise. So I can understand Ben White definitely has those characteristics, so I can understand why he would be attractive. Um, and I think there is room for development on Saliba's end as far as proving himself in the English, uh, whether that be a championship loan or a loan to another Premier League team, to prove himself at that level. Because I do think it is a very it's one thing to do that in France. It's another thing to make that translation, and we've seen it work. I mean, Gabriel's clearly uh, made that look pretty easy. So it's not impossible to make that leap from the French Ligue 1 to the Premier League. But for some reason, I think there is some doubt as to whether Saliba can do that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him go out on loan one more year, but get him out of France and see if he can uh, do what's required to make that leap into the English league.
yeah, and I think him in the off season, him showing is going to be very important for him. I think he's definitely someone that needs to grab the chances, whatever he's given this offseason, and take them fully, because I think there is a bit of reluctancy with Arsenal towards him. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think they announced today there's going to be a pre. There's going to be several preseason matches, but um, there's a handful here in the states, a handful in England, and the one that was announced today was the mini English tournament. I think it was with Chelsea and Tottenham. So I would be curious to see him get some time in those sorts of games to see how he stacks up, because I think those are going to come closer to the start of the season. It'll be, give him an opportunity to ramp up and then see where if he's at that level or not. And I think that will this preseason is going to be a big deciding factor in whether they keep him or loan him out. And, maybe it kind of comes down to this Ben White situation, if they're able to make that happen or not. I know there's a lot of moving pieces with Arsenal in this window, so that may not be a high priority for them. They may have to move their assets into another player, and so if Ben White isn't able to get across the finish line here, then maybe they have to go with Saliba and find a way to get him worked into the first team somehow. But we'll see.
Yeah,
it's a weird situation.
it is. I'm interested to see how it all pans out.
And I think another aspect of this is it comes back to that homegrown quota. Another English player over a foreign national.
Well, I mean, that doesn't matter about the homegrown, because the homegrown's about who comes through your academy, correct?
I think they just have to be developed in the English league.
Oh, is that it?
You have to.
I thought it was specifically to your academy, but I could be wrong on that.
Because a lot of the talk was going out and finding an English backup goalkeeper to
gotcha.
hit that quota. So
okay, gotcha. I'm completely wrong on that.
I think they have to be developed in the country somehow for a certain time period. We'll have to look that up, though. No, I do want to know.
Probably very
for sure.
wrong on that.
We're so good at this.
knowing
all the things.
Yeah, some of those minutiae, I'm like, because I'm not building the team, I have less of a vested interest.
That's for Adu and Dick Garlic to figure out.
Like in the MLS with like the because they have the U.S. national kind of limit on it. I always just figure they'll figure out a way to get them a green card, so they'll figure out a way to make it work. Yeah. Like getting an English backup goalkeeper or something like that.
Something that's definitely a weird puzzle piece that they're gonna have to figure out in this season.
Well, and I think things get really weird once you figure in Brexit with that as well.
For sure. It'll be interesting to see who's going to plumb the depths of the South American leagues to find some up and coming players to bring in under the new Brexit rules. Last question here that I have, and this one is another interesting rumor. Willian was spotted at the latest Orlando City game, I think today. Yeah. So this is hot off the presses.
Wow.
But he was a guest at that game. There's been speculation that he would join a Florida team. He has a home there. And there's an open DP spot. Open DP spot at Orlando. And a good connection with Nani at the Brazilian national team there. So interesting idea of a place that he could go.
Is Nani Nani's a Portuguese, isn't he?
Oh, I thought he was Brazilian. There's a couple Brazilian players there.
Yeah, I'm sure there
Maybe
are.
I was thinking it was not. I was thinking it was Nani, but maybe you're right.
It's Portuguese language at the very least.
He is Portuguese, yeah. Who is on that team? There's a couple other.
MLS has a bunch of utility Brazilians always hanging around.
There's a ton of Brazilians in there.
But as far as the rumor goes, I'm sure. I mean, I personally don't think he's going to do well in the MLS. I know we've had this discussion. I think he doesn't have the pace, and he might have the skill. I haven't watched a lot of Orlando this year, especially with like the whole way MLS is weird, where East Coast and West Coast aren't really playing each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't really been paying attention a lot to Orlando and their style of play. I mean, it's good for him. He's going to get a payday, and good for us. Or because do we still have him under contract?
Yeah, he's like signed a 3-year contract with us.
So good for us.
Can't get rid of him.
We might get some money out of it though. So, and especially if it's a DP, then they can actually spend the money on the transfer as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, sure, I'll take it. I'll take anywhere really for any amount of money. I think he'll have an inflated value in the MLS than he would almost anywhere else he goes. especially with China kind of being closed off right now as far as getting those bigger transfers. So yeah, sure. I mean, good luck to him. As I said, I don't think he's going to have a stellar career in Orlando, but he'll be happy. We'll be happy. Sounds like a win-win to everybody.
Yeah, there's quite a few Brazilian and Portuguese players on that team, so he might fit right in. Might be a good spot for him to land.
And the thing I always forget is how close Florida is to Brazil and Latin America.
Mm.
That I always think of, North and South America as kind of like being on a vertical axis, like directly north-south. But
Mm.
South America actually juts, and especially Brazil juts out fairly far east, so that it kind of Florida dangles, if that is the correct word, over South America in a way. So I think yeah, good for him. It would be my response to that. Yeah, I think it'll work.
I'm into the idea. Anybody who's willing to take him off our hands, I'm all for.
Yeah, as long as we don't give him away on a free or pay his salary while he's there, I think I'm fine with it.
Don't even speak such things. I think we have to be done with that, right?
I hope so.
I just don't understand, and this is assuming they would do something that dumb because they have. I don't understand how you would go from giving somebody a 3-year contract one season and then just getting rid of that player the next. That makes absolutely no sense. But you look at the statistical drop off of his performance, and even like I think the amount of shots was like a 10 times reduction compared to his last year at Chelsea.
But I mean, I generally don't say I told you so. But when we signed him, I told him. That's exactly what I said. There's a reason why Arsene Wenger's rule about players over 30 is a rule, is that when these players that are over 30, it may not be exactly on their 30th birthday, but they hit that cliff right away. And that's where the statistics really shows. When they hit that cliff, it goes down dramatically. And so offering a player like Willian a 3-year contract was just, unless there was something they were seeing that I just absolutely couldn't see, it was just idiocy. I think they're just gambling on one more good year.
Production wise, he did not have a bad last season with Chelsea. He was still doing a lot. It just you can't expect that his body's going to continue to perform at that level
After 30. It's a pretty good rule of thumb. I mean, rule of thumbs are meant to be broken, but it is a pretty good measure. And it was one of Arsene Wenger's first like forays into statistics. It was just looking at players after they turn 30 and their average amount of production. And if we weren't giving Dennis Bergkamp more than a year in a contract, there's no one after he turned 30. There's no one that deserves a contract more than 3 years after 30. So yeah,
that's
I'll get off my high horse now.
I'm just pulling up his stats from his last season at Chelsea. He had 47 appearances in all competitions, 11 goals, 9 assists, and then just showing the shift in his Arsenal performances: 37 appearances, 1 goal, 7 assists. So seven assists is nothing. I mean, it's not nothing, I should say, but 1 goal is clearly not what they signed him for.
Yeah, and
definitely wanted more production there.
And again, it's more than just the stats. I think stats can be liars, and stats are just like you can, when you saw William play, it was a far more of a detraction than 7 assists were a positive. And it's things like losing the ball, losing possession, not chasing after possession, basically being a dead man on the pitch that other people have to cover for. There's a lot of things that don't show up on the stat. So yeah, 7 assists are okay, but I don't think we need to go down the rabbit hole of how bad Willian was.
I think he did not pass the eye test, and that's all it comes down to. Is you can tell which players are fighting for the team and which ones are there to just collect a paycheck, and it kind of felt like he had an opportunity to stay in London and make a decent amount of money, so he took it. And I don't know that his heart was ever really in it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And he was given plenty of chances, and yeah, never really took them. So yeah,
Yeah,
go to go to
unfortunately.
go to go to Orlando. Welcome to the MLS.
Gosh, I am really excited if that comes to fruition.
Well, that would, I think it would be the best for everybody concerned.
Yes. Um, all right. Well, I think we can move on from William and move on from our questions that I came up with this week. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we got a couple questions from you guys that we will hopefully knock out of the park. So stick with us. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back from the break, and now with a couple questions, let's get to it. Avi Epstein has some questions on our transfer window so far. He says, "What are your opinions on our transfer business thus far? What do you think of the players we are linked with, such as White and Makonga, for example? Of course, we have to wait until the end of the window to properly judge how we did, but are you concerned about management addressing the priority areas and bringing in the right players?"
I mean, I think I think he kind of answered the first part of this question himself, which is that it's really hard to judge a window before it's closed, and I think this window especially is, I've been saying, it's gonna be a weird one. There's not a lot of money going around right now, anyways. If you're looking at the business right now, the biggest name is, or the biggest transfer, I guess, has been Memphis Depay on a free to Barcelona. I think is like the biggest news. Other than that, there hasn't been a lot of trading. Partially, it's due to the Euros and the Copa going on, where a lot of players are playing in a tournament, not really negotiating. And also, there's just not a lot of money. If there ends up being like the Kane deal, where a big chunk of change gets dropped into the transfer market, that will probably loosen up some of the deals and start moving some wheels around. But as far as now, it's just I can't really be that upset right now. I can make judgments about previous windows, which I think we haven't been doing great in previous windows, and so it makes me nervous for this window. But I'm not going to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down until I see the final product, who we brought in, who we got out, what was the net spend, all that sort of, nuts and bolts, less sexy thing.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to judge based on the rumors that are going around, because I think right now, based on where Arsenal is at, it's easy to point to them and say, "Oh, they need this, they need that," so we can link this player and that player who play those positions, and becomes credible clickbait at that point, because you can make that connection and go, "Oh yeah, that seems like something they would do." No matter how far fetched it is, you can kind of believe that's like, well, Arsenal is that dumb, or Arsenal might break the bank, or like, you can kind of make your own conclusions based on what you think about the team. The the hope is that the money that they do put into this window it's all about just being smart with it. I think we've talked about the Willian deal a bit before the break, and it's just, those kind of things cannot happen in this offseason. We cannot make those sort of deals that shackle us from doing other things. And I do kind of give Arsenal a little benefit of the doubt, in that the last offseason was definitely a strange one. There's been upheaval in the scouting department, and so that's still going to play a factor in this window as well. And I think there's this constant desire to have a mix of established players and up and coming players. I mean, the comments that Arteta has made is that you can't field a team of 20 somethings and expect to have success. Like I think he definitely believes that there needs to be a balance. So for as many players that we get linked with, like Lakonga, who's 21, we're going to get linked to the occasional Ramses, or kind of players that are on the other end of that scale. And I think there's going to be those sorts of links because we've done it. We've made those sorts of signings in the past, so it's not too far fetched to make those connections and try to um, link those sorts of players to Arsenal as well. I hope when push comes to shove and the deals actually start materializing, that they are leaning more towards the Conga profile, and a 21-year-old who's captain Anderlecht is the type of player we should be going after. Those are the types of players, and that cost is, 13 million. It's like nothing. He plays for a season in the Premier League, and now he's got Premier League experience. That cost could double, and you haven't lost anything. He could play a handful of games. He's still got so much time to develop, and his value will continue to grow. Whereas you sign a Willian, there is no value there. That going in. So putting a 3-year contract on that sort of player makes absolutely no sense. So I hope that if it is an older established player that we want to bring in for the leadership, for the experience, 1 year with an option, tops. Like, learn your lessons.
Yeah, and the thing with the Congo, just going back quickly, he does seem like a great player to sign, and the price is right. But the other side of it is what we were talking about earlier when we were talking about Emile Smith-Rowe. Where do we see Arsenal right now? Are we looking to develop players, or do we need to be signing players that are going to make more or less an instant impact when they're coming in? Because at 20 years old, I can't imagine him playing much earlier than like 3 years in the future. He's not going to be starting instantly in the Premier League at 20 years old. It's just,
I don't know. I mean,
coming from Belgium.
I
Even
don't
Ronaldo
know.
took 3 years to develop. Like
Yeah.
these players, when they come in young, they take time to really become who they are. And my biggest worry is I don't know how much time we have. We really need to get into the Champions League next year. I know we'll probably talk about it a little bit more, but that just needs to happen as reality, or the consequences are just going to get worse and worse.
Yeah, I am all for the model of bringing in young players with a ton of potential, and maybe they don't all start right away, but giving them as many opportunities as possible. I don't think we're going to bring in 20-year-olds and then send them out on loan. I think the intention with that sort of signing is we're going to bring you in, and you might rotate, but we're going to get you as much Premier League experience as we can give you so that you can bed in and be ready to hit the ground running next season, or later on this season. Because I think the experiment with Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe was a success. Like, it showed that you can put some pressure on these kids and they aren't going to crumble. And I think they're looking for. I think the example of Lakonga is somebody who's not going to buckle under pressure. He is playing in the Belgium league, but I think he's captaining at that level is no small feat. And we saw that same sort of profile with Tierney, and he made that leap fairly easily. And I think that is a lot about the player's character and their desire and their level of responsibility when they're on a team.
I think I broadly agree with you, but I think there is a level of also we have to kind of understand what our expectations of who Arsenal is and what a club and what our desires are. Because if we really do want to be in that top tier, blooding in 20-year-olds to see if they work is not going to be a successful strategy. When Chelsea had their transfer ban and they had Frank Lampard, they really tried that out, and they had a bunch of great talents. They had Mount and I'm forgetting all these players. I can see their faces, but that was the whole idea is we're just going to basically bring in all these talents from the academy, and it only got them so far, and that's the thing. And then they had to spend $1 billion in the transfer window once it opened up to get all these players to, get back to it. And I don't think I'm nervous that we don't have $1 billion to throw in. So we have to kind of start making some hard choices, and it's a broader discussion that I think we as a fan base may need to at some point have, which is where do we want Arsenal? Where do we see Arsenal? Do we have long-term goals or short-term goals? Because I think we're at a point right now where we can't have everything we want.
I think looking back at last season, though, the Willian types were means to winning now and trying to get quick results because they didn't have to have that development time. They didn't have to learn the league or anything. And I think that wasn't all it was cracked up to be. Like, that doesn't necessarily translate on a new team. It doesn't necessarily. I think taking a chance on a handful of younger players ultimately gets you closer to where you want to go, both as a sustainability model and just showing that players from other teams can come in and have an opportunity with Arsenal and show that they can actually develop here. And this is like a place to come in and develop and not necessarily move on. If Arsenal is able to succeed, then, that those young players that come in, develop, and get sold on, help us reinvest in the club, bring in bigger, better talents. I just think there's no way without European football that Arsenal can really function without a big shift in how we're signing players and how we're developing players and how we're selling players. Like, that whole model is not going to work without European football. At least not the way we've been doing it with these big contracts that don't go anywhere.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I would definitely not say something like a willing contract, but I'm thinking we need to probably be signing more parties, more mid to midish 20s who have become established on decent teams if we can get them. I think that becomes an issue, and I think it's hard because I think there's a lot of things that would be awesome if we could do it, but we're going to have to start prioritizing our money into certain things. And yeah, a chance on a $13 million player. We did that with Saliba last window, in the quarter that, or 2 windows ago. God, time is squishy. And you see where that comes in. And I just, at this point, with no European football, with the way the world economics is, the way football economics is, or soccer economics is right now, those transfers add up, and I think we don't have as much wiggle room with them that we used to.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last 3-4 years we've kind of squandered that wiggle room. So I think that's the danger with the Lukongas type playing, is that we could be investing that resources into trying to get more of a sure thing.
Yeah, but I feel like at that transfer level, a $13 million transfer, those are the types of players that you can take a chance on and not have a big loss. The only thing you're really losing is playing time that could go to other people. But if you can't go out and sign other people, then that $13 million is not a bad investment that you probably would recoup. I think you're like, he's probably going to come into the Premier League, and you've seen with Guendouzi, he's been all over the place, and yet the money that's being tossed around with him is not far off from what we paid for him. Like, if you're buying low, then the chances are there's still going to be room in their careers for them to possibly improve with the change of scenery. Like, if it didn't work out for Lukonga here, I do feel like there's so much time for him to develop that teams are not going to look at it and be like, oh, well, that's a lost cause. He's not going to be worth that much money. But, another team could take him for $13 million and not feel like they're making a huge investment. And so there's no money lost there. But you put that much money into a party and he doesn't work out for Arsenal. Well, at that point in his career, he's like damaged goods. He may not recover and have a flourishing career in the twilight. I think when you're at that 28, 29 level, the amount of recovery time that you have when you switch teams start shrinking and shrinking, they're going to look at that and be like, yeah, maybe he's not worth what Arsenal paid for him. I think that goes down much quicker with a more established player versus somebody who still has a lot of time left in their career.
Yeah, I mean, I think Guendouzi's a great example because he also, maybe on transfer mark has a similar value, but we've seen that we can't get rid of those types of players, and we're not getting the values. I I think it may be a fallacy to believe that you can always get your money back on some of these younger players. I mean,
but I think you're talking about
I
like a
haven't got.
loss of like 2 or 3 million versus like, if you're spending 50 million, you're talking like 10 to $20 million losses, then that's a lot bigger deal.
Yeah, but I mean, why you're paying the bigger thing is that it's much more likely to work out. I think uh, for most teams, if you're getting that 25-year-old player there and paying those fees, there is a much more higher level of certainty. But I haven't done the research on these, so I don't know the money is off of the top of my head to start really going down. But it's also that we need to start winning now, more towards now than in the future. Otherwise, I think you start going into a spiral really quick. We're already in a spiral. I mean, not to get into depressing Arsenal talk, but we are getting worse and worse year by year, and pushing that forward more and more is not going to get us back up quickly, and you're losing more money, and the more money you lose, the less money you have to buy players, and it is a very vicious cycle, and you end up like Newcastle,
Yeah.
who was fighting for the premiership maybe like in 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think it. But if you're looking at how Arsenal have done things and continuing to try to replicate what they were doing when they had European football, doesn't necessarily make sense if you weren't even having success while doing that. So now you're talking about continuing to do the same thing without the funds coming in. That doesn't make a. I just don't think buying a ton of established players makes sense for where we're at financially and where we're at as far as what we can offer those sorts of players. So I think it's going to be harder to get those types to come, especially like good players of that age bracket, to come and play for a team like Arsenal. Because by the time they get back to that Champions League level, whether that's 2-3 years down the road, they're kind of past their window. And so you're still going to have to go back and rely on some young players to get you to that level and to get you beyond, so that you can start getting the good, the good established players of that older age bracket that can help you win now. But I don't think you can actually go get those sorts of players until you have that level of competition to offer them.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I think we're all looking at Liverpool, I think, as Arsenal fans, because they kind of dug themselves out of the hole that we're in. And you look
Mm.
at how Liverpool did it. They signed an extremely good coach, and then the players that they did it weren't the youth players that they signed and brought in. It was they brought in Van Dijk, they brought in uh, what's his name, Salah, who wasn't a youth player. Like these players.
But they spent a ton of money on those players that we are not going to go to.
and
I don't
and
see that.
and that's, I think, maybe kind of my point, is that we're going to have to look at priorities, and if we're looking going down the youth model, we're going to have a very different expectation of what Arsenal
Yeah,
is.
I,
And
I I don't think my expectation is that we're going to make Europe, or at least not Champions League this season. I would expect to like get more into the Europa League conversation again, but I think that is a sign of getting back to where we need to be more than just getting back into Champions League, because I think the reality is there's a lot of teams vying for those 4 spots, and it's not going to be easy to just uh, go from where we've been in this middling team to suddenly outstanding fighting for the Premier League next season. I think that that title run is still a couple seasons out of the picture at the moment.
just for me, it's just having watched the Premier League and see the teams float up and down. That's the rub, is that I personally am okay with stepping back and going, all right, we are no longer the Arsenal of the early 2000s, and we may have to look at new ways of doing that. But it's going to be a very hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, to say we're not aiming for Champions League, we're not aiming to win the league anymore. That's
I don't think that's the case. I just don't think it's the reality that we can expect that to happen this coming season. Like, I think that there is going to be a bit of a rebuild year, and if we surpass that expectation, great. But I think it would be too much to ask this team, which is clearly in need of rebuilding, to just put it all together. I don't see that happening, even if they splash all the cash in the world, because the market's weird. I think um, there is that catch of needing European football to kind of attract the right kind of player to continue to perpetuate that move forward. So I look at this as like, get us back to Europa League. That's a stepping stone in that direction. But I don't know that we can expect Champions League, expect a Premier League title run right off the bat. I think that it is maybe a 1 to 2 season more before we're at that point again. And it's just the way things are. It's what happens when you mismanage things and let yourself slip. It's not an overnight fix, because these mistakes ripple, and they come back to bite you when you make like poor financial decision after poor financial decision.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we really are reaping the rewards for mistakes that were constantly made even before Wenger left, and
Mm-hmm.
we had that cushion, and the Premier League was a very different league,
Right.
and now we're definitely seeing those mistakes, and getting kind of back to Avi's original question. The I can't say whether or not this transfer window is disappointing, but I can say the last 5, 6, 7 years of transfer windows have been disappointing, and I think yeah, hopefully we can be on the road to turning it around, and hopefully players that we pick up are the stepping stones to greatness.
We have another question here, and I think this kind of actually speaks to what you were talking about a little bit more, because I think this is the type of signing that gets more to the type of player that you're looking for them to sign. And this question comes from Tim Whittom. Had you heard that Arsenal has been linked with James Madison from Leicester City?
I have heard it before. I don't know the source of this rumor. And as always, I never really get super excited about specific rumors, because until I see the pen to paper, I'm not sure. I think he's a type of player that, as you said, I think could do a job. I do like getting someone from the Premier League. I like kind of his profile. I think he fits into what we need. So I'm sure that's probably why the rumor gets started, is because these rumor mills, all they literally do is look at a team, go, oh, what do they need? Oh, here are some players, and we will churn them out, put them in, make newspapers, or I guess nowadays it's web pages that people will click on and make money.
Yeah.
I literally have a friend of mine who made a transfer rumor about a fake player, made a fake Wikipedia page from an Albanian player, got it to, I believe, the Sun actually ran a blurb about it. So it shows you how much research and how much thought goes into these rumors when they're put on in papers.
Yeah, I think it's more about being first than being right.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, there's literally no punishment for them making a fake rumor, and it really is. I've listened to people at the Guardian who've had the transfer rumor desk, and it really just comes down to, they have a column that needs to make it by X time in the morning. They look at, team needs this player has those qualities, I'm going to write a article about it, or just a blurb. It's usually 2 sentences, and then once it gets into the stratosphere, everyone starts just echoing it, so that it just becomes this link to a link to a link to a link, and you can find it's usually just one random source. Hence why you can make it to the Sun making up a player.
Yeah, so many of the rumors I see are just tweets from people who are not offering any new information. They're just regurgitating what is already known or what is already rumored in a different way, and people take that and read into it, and it's all of a sudden some piece of gold. And it's like, well, he didn't offer anything new here. that we didn't already hear from X, Y, and Z, just reworded things, and now you're retweeting it, and now it's a thing. But it doesn't add anything to the conversation. So these guys just, I think 90% of the time they don't really do any actual work. It's more just that echo chamber that you're talking about.
I mean, it's all about how conspiracy theories work, right?
Sure. Yeah. And the fans buy in and want to believe it, so they like the stuff that they want to hear, and kind of discard everything else. And it's very much how human brains operate all the time.
Yeah. It's always nice to have a new shiny toy, or at least the thought of a new shiny toy.
Right. At least for me, the James Madison connection is it's kind of it's kind of an Odegaard type in a way, and offers something that he doesn't, in the sense that he's English and has that a lot of Premier League experience, and has established himself as a solid player in the Premier League. So I think that in some ways is an advantage to Madison, but the flip side to that is he's going to have that English tax, so that he's going to have an inflated price of 10 million or more, especially since I haven't heard that Leicester are necessarily looking to get rid of him. I think it would require a good chunk to pry him away from them. But the thing I do like about this, and the Ben White rumor, is reestablishing a good British core in the team. I think some of our best days were with that group of young British players back in the day, in their early 2000s. And so I like that idea. Not to speak ill of our Brazilian core that we had for a minute, but I do like the idea of 4 or 5 established English players playing for Arsenal. I feel like that feels like a very Arsenal thing. Kind of really something that was, people complain about that, not having enough young English players being developed in the Premier League. And I think that has slowly shifted, and that has resulted in a better English national team. And so I think that fans will really appreciate those sorts of signings. And at 24, he's hitting his prime. I think he's the type of player that they should be looking at to mix in with those even younger players who aspire to be at that level when they're at 24. So I think that's, even though he's only a little bit older, I think that he could be a leader on the team as well.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm as not a British citizen or a fan of the English national team. I'm less interested in having the British core. We could go for a Swedish core, though. I could.
You got a lot of work to get to core level. I think we have to have more than 2 players.
Yeah, but no, I mean, but there is an argument about at least just squad cohesion and those types of things.
I'm always thinking of the chemistry stats.
Yeah, exactly. On FIFA.
Uh-huh.
And just more to the point, I totally lost my train of thought once I thought about FIFA.
That's what it does. It makes you mindless.
Yeah, I'll drop it on that then. There's gonna be some very profound thing that got sucked up by FIFA.
Yeah, I don't know the reality of this, because there is that obstacle of finances, and his valuation sits at 60 million, and I think he would take a bit more than that to get from Leicester. So I would say this is still quite a bit of a fantasy signing, and
Yeah.
I kind of think, based on other needs, getting 2 $30 million players would be a better use of that money.
Yeah. I mean, I remember now what I was going to say, which is that there is something to be said for Premier League experience that that I think it, more than a British core, a core of players that know what it's like to play in the Premier League, is something that can't be overlooked.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just pulling up his stats right now to look at what he did last year. Just get an idea of what he could bring to the table. He had 11 goals, 10 assists in all competitions. That's not bad.
Yeah, and again, I mean, with stats, it's like what's we watched Sokka today, and what he didn't show up on the stat sheet, but definitely helps out in the full games, and I think with him, you get the same idea with Jamie Madison.
Yeah, I'd be into it, but I do think it is a little far fetched at this point until there's reason to believe that Leicester needs the money, or I don't know that they're in that position, and they're you know they're kind of more in the position. They would probably take that 60-70 million that would give them and go out and find like 5 up and coming players that
Yeah,
they will turn into
yeah,
60-70 million dollar players.
they're very much in a less desperate position than we are. Although they did also miss the Champions League, which is
Yeah, they just seem to be much better at recruiting and developing players at the moment than we are, and they definitely offer a bit of an example to what Arsenal could and should be doing in finding some younger talent that they can develop on the fringes, so that you can stand to benefit. I think that is the key. If the ownership decides that they're going to invest this one time to right the ship, then you have to figure out how to make that money continue to work for you over the years.
yeah. I mean, they're an interesting case because I think they got really lucky with a couple players like N'Golo Conte. Like that was just absolute luck that they found him, basically a world class player. I think they got him for like 2 million, and were able to flip him. And with Riyad Mahrez, same thing, got him for a very cheap price. We're able to flip him and then be able
Maguire.
to
I mean, they
Maguire.
kind of keep doing it. It's not like a total fluke. They seem to have a good
Yeah,
pipeline.
yeah. It's not a total fluke, but it was definitely the seed money from these players, and like getting absolutely lucky with Jamie Vardy, who I don't think would work in any other team.
No.
Just somehow he
Could you imagine if he had
magically.
joined Arsenal?
Oh, I was so glad he didn't. I don't think it would have worked, and it would have been an awful fit for everybody
Oh
involved.
yeah. Speaking of awful fit, what do you think of the Kane to City rumors?
Talk about an English tax. I was thinking about this, and I may get in trouble with some viewers,
Might be
listeners.
viewers. We're
Yeah,
on somewhere.
we I've never thought Kane was a great striker to begin with. I think he's a fine striker. I think he fits well in Tottenham, but I don't think he's world class. And I think the English media tends to build him up as this world class striker. And I think I can think of five other strikers in the Euros that I'd rather have over Kane, and that's not my Arsenal glasses on. I think he has a very high British tax price tag, and I think it would be crazy if City buys him. I don't think they're doing it because they're stupid. I think they're doing it because it's a great PR move. It's always nice to have the captain of the English national team on your squad.
Mm-hmm.
Although if he continues to have the Euros that he's had, he's not going to be necessarily the darling of the English fans. But there is something you said to that, as well as you do get some more refereeing decisions your way if you have the captain of the English national squad on your team.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's more of a PR stunt than it is, and it also shows that Man City is the biggest team in the world right now if they can afford to splash that amount of cash.
Yep.
But from a pure soccer sporting perspective, he'll get you some goals. I don't think he's going to be trash by any standards, but I think there's a lot better way to spend at least half of that 100 million, pound or dollar, I forget what it is, fee that they've been saying about City.
He is currently valued at $132 million. To put that into perspective, Holland, who's 7 years younger, is $143 million.
I'd go Holland.
I would too. And one of the headlines I saw made me laugh was that Holland's stock rises as Euro strikers disappoint. So I don't think the shop window is working for a lot of the strikers that are out there right now. At least ones that could possibly move.
I don't know the Finnish striker Pulipulu who was on loan at a whatchamacallit, at a Union Berlin. I think he's looking good for a good value. He had a good Euros.
Yeah, I just noticed that Holland was born in Leeds. Interesting.
Yeah, there's pictures of him in a Leeds kit.
But yeah, I think he's one of those players, and Kane as well. If and when those sorts of players make moves, you will see that domino effect as to other things shaking loose. So I'd be curious how that all plays out.
Exactly. I mean, the last I heard with Haaland is that he's actually going to stay one more year and then go from there.
So I wonder if
it all changes.
I wonder if Dortmund will try to reload by selling Sancho then, because I think that's their big asset that they have available.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good shout. I mean, I wouldn't mind actually. That's a player I would keep my eye on.
110 million, not necessarily for us since we've already dropped 72 million on our right winger, but
yeah. It's not necessarily filling a hole of need. I just like the player.
For sure. Getting him with Saka would be a nice chemistry builder.
Yeah.
Gotta always think of that chemistry stat.
Always.
All right, I think that's good for us. Every time I say we're going to be brief, I didn't say it in the episode, but I was thinking it. Like, maybe we don't have that much to talk about, but we always find a way.
I could talk about this for hours. And do.
Yes. I think that's a good place to stop for this week, though. So thank you all who have stuck with us this long. I appreciate you staying for 70 episodes. We did it. Whatever that means. I'm going to say it like every 10 episodes. We did it.
We did it.
If you haven't done it by this time, if you're new or are maybe a little bit lazy, now is the time to subscribe. Wherever you're listening to us, whether that be YouTube or Spotify, Apple, any of those places where you could hear us or see us, hit that subscribe button. That would be a huge help. Hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Hit that review or give us stars or whatever it is. That would be a huge help. To do that one little click, it only takes a second. If you want to join in and be part of the podcast in our next episode, you can always send us questions or comments or we had a couple things that we probably got wrong, probably more than a couple, to be honest. So we'll take your corrections too. Send us corrections. Make us feel just horrible.
Please,
I'll take the abuse. You can do so by going to Twitter, which is @W_N_London, or you can send us an email at westofnorthlondon@gmail.com. And if you love the sound of your own voice, you can send a voicemail at anchor.fm/westofnorthlondon/message, and that will allow you to record your own voice and send it our way. We would love to hear from you and add you to the next episode, no matter what you have to say. If it goes into a black hole and doesn't make the episode, you'll know why, because you're dirty mouth. But
yeah, this is totally a PG podcast.
Ish. We're probably a PG-13. Occasionally have a gory death or an F-bomb. But just like one or two, so we keep under that rated R.
Yeah.
But I digress. If you like our theme song, check out Bobcat. BOBC.at is where you can find their website. And No Course to Follow is their latest album. Go check that out and see what they're up to in the coming weeks, months, years. It's all there. So catch up with them there. And I think that will do it for us this week. So as always,
see you at the next gun show.